Okay, I'm going to show you a couple more symbols. These ones are going to be a little bit more detailed. Again, a lot of this is going to depend upon how much time you have for each individual design. So you can draw your circle. Again, it's darker than I might normally make simply because I want you to be able to see it. You can do your U's in the opposite direction as well, and that gives you more of an evergreen appearance rather than the more deciduous look. So when you have kind of points on there, notice again, I'm picking the pencil up very deliberately, trying to make each one individual. Doesn't matter if they all look exactly the same. Some might be a little bit wider than others. Some might be a little bit larger or smaller or a little less rounded, those sorts of things. And then you can do the same thing if you'd like to add a little bit more detail. You can add a few leaves. Notice how they're all pointing into the center. If it might mean that you have to get up and move around the table because your paper is taped down, you can add a few more on the other side, maybe a second row on the inside, something along those lines. It just gives you a little bit more detail. You can also do that in different ways. You might look at a little bit more detail here on an evergreen. Again, we're going to have our points going to the outside. You can also do the lines. So I'm going to kind of combine two symbols here. So you can do the lines all the way around as well. And then you can do another row of lines. Something along those lines all the way around. You can do all the way to the center if you'd like. You could do a row, another row of U's or V's kind of going all the way around. If you're struggling with that, you can make very, very light guidelines on the inside. So you can see I've kind of combined two symbols there, one with more of the U's or the V's, one with more of the lines. So there's lots and lots of ways to do that. The other thing that you can do is create a very, very light symbol, one that's really not going to show up at all. I have a very soft pencil here, so that's sometimes difficult to draw something very light. And then kind of hand draw the edges to it. And now, that's a very simple symbol. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to draw, and it's something a little bit different. And you're utilizing the guidelines still. You're not trying to hand draw a circle, because what you'll find is you try to hand draw circles, it's nearly impossible to do that. We can do the same thing if we're grouping circles. Here's where I would definitely draw things very light. You may have to get yourself a harder pencil if your pencil is very soft, because what you're going to end up doing is kind of erasing, because we often plant groups of shrubs. And then you're going to simply end up erasing the middle portion. And now what you're trying to do is, again, you can do this very simply and very quickly if you need to do this quickly. You can see I'm making these lines much darker. But they are still very deliberate lines. And it often helps, particularly if you're not the one doing the installation, if you go ahead and add that center dot to them. Occasionally, if you've got very plant-heavy designs, you might even consider doing something along these lines where you're adding not just the center dot, but the line that shows that they are definitely all connected. Now, were I grading this, I would be knocking myself out for that. So we're trying to avoid things like that. But a lot of it depends upon how much time you have as you're developing these symbols. So that's some very simple stuff on how to turn circles into trees and shrubs.